Hello everybody, Eaton here, and today I wanted to talk about some possible premium additions to the US tank line. And I know since 1.51 is being released, and this is pretty much the premium patch, with pretty much 50% of the new tanks being, or wait, a bit less than 50% of the new tanks being premium. People might not really want some premium tanks right now, because I think we're well covered for those, but these are for the future, for future patches. Now, the first tank I wanted to talk about was the T34, as we see right now. You might be thinking, well, the US never operated T34s. I've never heard anything about this. But I was doing a bit of just browsing around the internet, looking at some documents, and it turns out the Russians sent the US a T34 and a KV1. Now, these tanks were not combat, they weren't tried in combat, obviously. They were sent to the Aberdeen Proving Grounds, where the Americans really pretty much destroyed them by testing them. It was a bit of the Russians' fault and the Americans' fault. The Russians never told the Americans how to properly maintain the tanks, and the Americans never really asked for manuals saying how to also maintain them and run them effectively. But yeah, so the T34, now in the document it never specifically says which T34 the Russians sent, which variation, but we can assume that it is the T34 1941. This is because they talk about an F-34 cannon, 76mm cannon, which is the gun on the 1941 version. But at the same time, it talks about the Americans not liking the welded turrets that the T-34 had, which was synonymous with the earlier T-34 designs. And the only T-34 to have a welded small turret, and the F-34, to my knowledge, is the T-34 1941 76mm, which is currently in the game. So, a T-34 in the American line, perhaps. However, this T-34 1941 will not be like the Russian T-34 for a couple of reasons. The American one will not be as maneuverable or agile as the Russian T-34. This is because the American one, like I said, they didn't really know how to properly run the tank, and after a few test sessions, the tank quickly wore down and produced some pretty negative results that the Americans didn't like. It was due to some, I think it's something like an oil filter or something along those lines that had to be cleaned and replaced every 2 to 3 hours or something, and the Americans didn't know about that, so they just kept running. It's like in a car, you have to change the oil every X amount of miles, but if you don't know when to change it, or in fact if you even have to change it, your car is not going to run at its optimal performance. The same thing happened to the T-34, although it wasn't to do with just the oil, it was several things. So that would affect the sort of engine power, the get up and go of the tank, really. And the maneuverability would be affected by the tracks. Now, the tracks that were sent with the T-34 were, I can't remember what was wrong with them, but something was. They weren't of good quality. They were being replaced soon anyway, but the tracks that the T-34 in America had were just pretty poor, and it was stated in the document how Americans thought that all Russian tanks were pretty poor with their tracks because of that, but it was just a problem that was resolved. But because of these bad tracks, the American T-34 will not be as maneuverable as regular T-34s. Now, I think this is good because the premiums in War Thunder right now, people are saying pay to win. I still don't think so, but I think a premium should not be as good as a fully bought, a tank that you actually have to research and fully upgrade. Sort of like in World of Tanks, there's not really that many premium tanks in World of Tanks that are as good as say like there's a tier 6 premium in World of Tanks. It will not be as good as a fully upgraded tier 6 tank that you actually have to grind and unlock. It'll be somewhere in the middle of a completely stock tank and a completely spaded tank. Now, of course, in World of Tanks, got the whole T34 thing. I think that was what it was, some medium, and that sort of threw everything out of balance. But yeah, that's irrelevant right now. Now, the second tank that the U.S. sent was the not the U.S. The second tank that the Russians sent to the U.S. was a KV1. Now, I'm pretty sure again this wasn't the one with the ZIS-5. It was one of the earlier versions, and they pretty much destroyed that tank as well. They broke the drive on it and everything, and it was just a big mess. But if the Americans do get that tank, I think it'll be a good addition because, well, frankly, the Americans don't really have any low-tier heavies or anything that's very heavily armored for a larger tank, and a KV1 would add a bit of spice to the line. Because really, the American heavies start at the M6, and if you look at some of the other nations like Russia, you have the KVs, I think it's the SMK as well, and a couple other things that are really incredibly good low-tier heavies that completely outclass some things like the Shermans, a few of the Shermans, and other American tanks. But that's just my opinions on it. Now, those were those tanks, but I think there was another premium idea that I had. Oh yeah, the Panzer 58. Now you might be thinking that this is a German tank because Panzer, but it's not. It's a Swiss tank that was developed sometime in the later 50s. It doesn't meet the cutoff date of 1955, but as of recently, Gaijin has been throwing that cutout date away. We have the M60. I mean, the Panzer 58 was developed before the cutoff date, so I think, the M60 was developed before the cutoff date, so I think that's why they're allowing it in. But the same goes for the Panzer 58, and I think it would give, again, the Germans another interesting tank. It will probably be a very good tank, because it does have a nice 90mm, some good armor, and a decent top speed and horsepower. But, yeah, there was one more. I was thinking of one more. I don't know. But, now back to the original T34 KV1 talk. You might be saying, well, since the US never operated them, they were just test subjects, why put them in? Well, the Japanese, in their line, have two of the same vehicles, not KV1 T34, but the same vehicle type of, they got the Focke-Wulf 190 and the F-109 that they received from the Germans and tested. They never saw combat, but they are in the premium line. And I think there's another tank or vehicle that has the same story of received, never put into combat, but was tested. So, if you guys could let me know what you think about this in the comments, I'd really appreciate it. And if you would like to sort of talk about this, go ahead, because I'm looking for new information about these tanks, about the KV1 and T34, the American versions, or the American trial versions. And if you guys know anything or could find anything out, that would be great, so if you just tell me. And if we could start, if you would go to the forums and start suggesting this, I think that would be great, because who knows, we might get a decent American heavy tank at the lower tiers, something that is lacking. And it would be sort of a fun thing to have. I doubt many people would buy it, but it would be nice to have. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and on with the rest of the gameplay. So, this game I started in hopes of getting footage for this video with the T34 1941, but as we see, I got several kills with it, but died relatively quickly. But it wasn't over, and this was a very surprising game for me, because I did not come into this game with the thought of getting a 20+ kill game. I just thought, I'll get a couple kills and put that into a little compilation, and get some more gameplay put in there so I can get that as the footage. But no, this game just kept going, and it was actually pretty tense because it came down to where there was 2 people left, and they were the only 2, and I couldn't get the 20. But that's for a bit later on in the video. Right now we are in the KV1. Now I think this would be the version if Gaijin does put in the premium T34 KV1. I think this would be the version, or something similar to this. I think the T34 that they were talking about in the documents was armed with an F34, because they did not mention any other gun besides the F34, and yeah, just the F34. They didn't mention the ZIS-5 or the L11. I think that's what this gun is on this tank. But yeah, so there we got 13 kills. Now, I'm not sure how many are ground and how many are air, but 13 kills, I mean, is not... I would be happy with this game if it just ended right there. But it didn't. And now I get a ground attack plane, and as you can see, I am pretty crap with the airplanes. I usually don't take them out that much, and yeah, it really shows. I think I got, what, 2 kills with aircraft in this game out of everything. And of course there was a earlier Stuka shooting down a Yak, but that counts towards the air kills, not towards the ground kills. And here we going on this strafing run, or this rocket run on that T-34 there. That guy had an amazing game as well. He got 19 kills, he was 1 away, and he got taken out. I felt pretty bad for him, but he carried his team and I carried my team, sort of. Although, no, my team carried me because I didn't bother capping. They did all of it. I did the killing, they did the capping. I'm that kind of person. Now we have an SU-122 facing the wrong way. I derp here because I didn't notice that most of his crew was knocked out and all I had to do was shoot the gunner. But, you know, I didn't notice at the time, so what can you do? But I have taken out his engine, immobilized him, and now it's just a matter of time before he's dead. So with the KV-1 right now, we have, like I said, the L11, and the ammo is decent. It's not as good as the F-34, or especially the F-34, oh, that's a nice kill, F-34 with the 1942 T-34 with its top, not armor-piercing shell, but the APCVHE thing, whatever it's called. That is a one-shot shell. Anyway, yeah, the L11, it's an alright gun if you can get top tier. Well, other than that, it's pretty poor. As you can see, I'm failing to penetrate the front of a Sherman from pretty much point blank, even with the armor-piercing top ammo. I think around this time I decide, fuck it, I'm just gonna have to charge the Sherman. I don't want him to flank around with a friend, so as you can see again, having trouble being penetrating. And the downfall of this gun becomes apparent because shooting to the side, there's not much fragmentation. Even when I load the shell that should have more high explosive in it, it doesn't really do much. I mean, it did damage his tank quite a bit, but not anything completely critical. He can still fire his gun, he can still shoot. But with the F-34 cannon, he would have been dead about a minute ago. Now we finished off the Sherman, and I can call in a bomber. However, we are... oh no, they are capping, they're recapping their area, so... I try to get into cover here, and I think, alright, I'll just back into this crater, that's a good idea. And then... I don't know what I was thinking, I just back up into a building on the staircases. And as you can see again from here, I am pretty terrible with planes. So we're in the Hurricane, and we can see this medium tank over here coming in for a attack on me. I don't think he knows I'm there, but I don't want to stick around in this plane for much longer. But I also don't want to J out. But I completely failed with the rocket, crashed the plane, and the Panzer III surprisingly came around the corner. So now we need to put pressure on him. Push up, he calls an arty, but he's distracted. And we This is just a slaughter. He can't turn his gun. Most of his crew's dead. Just put him out of his misery. There we go. That's 18. So we are 2 away. Wait, no. We are, yeah, a few away. And now we pretty much survived an artillery blast that landed right next to the tank. Oh well. Big, strong Prussian tank. I was trying to shoot that thing down so I could go through there without losing too much speed, but then a Stug appears. And fire, some nice damage, transmission and driver. It's going to keep him from moving his gun around a bit. And another shot and it kills his gunner, so he's not going to be able to fire for a while. And the last shot finishes him off. So I think that now we have 18 ground kills. I'm not sure though. No, I don't think so yet. I don't think so. But I want to call on a bomber now, just to harass the enemy some more. So I back up, same position pretty much, and I see when I'm in the bomber I think it's a Panzer IV that is flanking and coming near me. So I immediately just drop all my bombs and bail out of the plane. You'll see it here in a second. There's the Panzer IV. And I really don't want to die here because I'm on the verge of 20 kills and I know it. So. Yep, just going to J out as soon as I drop all my bombs on this guy. J out because I do not want to have that Panzer IV putting shots into me. Now the guy I dropped all the bombs on, he's on 19 kills right now. But he is only in a T28 and he's going up against a Sherman. So I think we all know how that ends. And you know, I felt really bad for this guy because he tried. He tried. He was a good player, but just couldn't get that final kill. So now we've got this Panzer IV where we want him. I'm surprised that shot didn't kill him actually. But he's backing up, and Mother Russia doesn't take prisoners. There we go. That's 19. No, that's 18. That's 18, sorry. 18 into 2 air kills. That's 20. But we only have 18 ground kills. We need 2 more. And who will be obliging us? T28 just died. Pushing through, hoping to find some light. And we do. We find T34. We bounce the track seat, the shots. And the Flak Panzer kills our Sherman. So I think it's me and 1 guy left now against 2 people on their team. Now, I guess that the T34 will be coming out here, and he did. And he shoots my gun, so I can't fire without the risk of blowing myself up. So I want to get that repaired as soon as possible. I killed this driver there, but now I'm just waiting. 7 seconds, thank God. If it was like 10, I probably would have been dead. But I don't understand why he didn't flank me, but anyway, who knows. He insisted on shooting at my front armor. So that's 19 kills. And at this point, I was just sweating because I was so close to 20. And there was only a few tanks left. And now I could have called in a bomber or a attack aircraft at this time, but that takes a while, and I was afraid that those remaining people on their team would have died. So I load a armor-piercing shell in expectation that we'll run into a freshly spawned T34 at their spawn. And we do. That Panzer IV is currently firing at him. And there he is. So we have a good shot. Kills loader and his machine gunner. We get some return fire, but nothing bad. We bounce, and then we see. Wait, no. He straightens out. We hit his engine and his loader. Have you noticed that when you hit a Russian tank in the engine, it kills the engine usually? Most of the time actually, but it doesn't set them on fire. But when you shoot a German tank in the engine, it just starts brewing up. Who knows? And now we have a Flak Panzer. And so I load shrapnel and start spraying him with machine guns to hopefully kill some crew. But at that moment, I run out of machine guns. So I just unload another shrapnel into his billow bits, and that decimates him. So there we go, there's 20, and now we have to finish off this T34. We hit his fuel tank and his loader, we kill the loader again, and now this guy's we just execute him. There we go. And that's 21 ground kills, 2 assists, 2 air kills, and 2 deaths. Again, I really wasn't trying to get to 20 at the beginning of this game, but it just happened, and I felt my try-hard panties at the very end. So that's everyone on their team, and to add insult to injury, we are capping. And that guy on the enemy team with 19 kills, God, I feel so bad for him, because getting 20 kills in a tank game is pretty rare, and it is a thing to brag about. And I think, skip ahead, I get a talisman. Come on. Oh, no. Yeah, I get a talisman for a IL-4. I don't know why it isn't playing right now. But anyway, so guys, thank you for watching, and again, please comment on whether or not you think the premium idea would be a good thing or not, and also comment on what premium tanks you'd like to see, or future tanks that may or may not be feasible. But anyway guys, I will catch you guys later.